So if a guy's going to make world-class silage, the first thing he has to do is he has to have a hybrid on his farm that is bred and developed and selected for milk making potential.
Yes.
Okay? That's first and foremost. Second thing is he needs to take that hybrid and he needs to manage it correctly. There are some management practices that we have to do so that we can maximize healthy plants. Healthy plants per acre is the absolute goal of the guy after he puts it in the ground.
That's right.
Okay, you know, so he says, okay, he's worked with his dealer, he's worked with us, and said, okay, we know that these plants have the potential for milk making. We know that these are MPG, milk potential genetics. We know this, okay, and then now when he gets it on the farm, his next job is to make sure that he manages that. One of those things starts out with planting population.
Yes.
Okay, now. We are in an era where actually I even heard this week that a guy said, "Oh yeah, I plant 40 to 42,000 plants an acre so that I can maximize high quality silage, that I can make higher quality silage." High populations do not equate to high quality silage. High populations do not equate to that. Now. We know that as you increased planting population, that you can, depending on weather conditions, and probably more times than not, you can increase yield, okay?
You can qualify that a little bit by saying that there is a lot of difference in hybrids' ability to flex.
Yes.
And not many of the hybrids available to a farm today in any part of the country have much flex at all.
Right.
They're almost all what the industry called fixed or determinate, and every now and then you find a hybrid that's listed in somebody's seed guide as semi-flex. But this idea of a hybrid's ability to flex based off of density in the field is virtually lost these days.
Yes.
And so when you're looking at 99% of the corn that's out there in the country today, increasing population on corn hybrids that don't flex, they were bred for high pops.
Yes.
They were bred to be there. But the corn that you researched, the corn that you and Kevin and Cullen and Kyle and your team work together to produce are more flex type corn hybrids.
Yes.
And you do that for a very specific reason.
We do. We do it for a very specific reason because we want to back down those populations, maintain the yield. So when we talk about flex, you think about something increasing in size. So we want to increase the size of the plant, we want to increase the size of the ear, and so if we cram too many of those plants together, we don't give the plant the ability to do that. We don't give the plant the ability to expand.
Most corn plants that are out there in a seed bag today don't have that ability.
Right.
But with your corn that does have the ability to flex, you would limit that ability. Okay,
Yes.
Now there's specific reasons why you'd want to, you mentioned I want to maximize the number of big, hardy, healthy corn plants. There's a good reason why, other than just the genetics that go into that plant having better fiber digestibility and better grain digestibility, there's another reason why you want to limit the density of that plant in the field, correct?
Yes, and that is to allow that plant to express that genetic potential for the high quality aspects, fiber digestibility, starch digestibility, starch as a percentage of dry matter. You want the plant to be able to flex that and express that. If I don't give it the opportunity to do that, then it doesn't happen. If I cram it in there with other plants, it's fighting that other plant.
Yeah.
It's spending energy fighting that other plant to get up, to get the sunlight, so that it can that it can be the plant's sole purpose. A corn plant's sole purpose is to get up and put on an ear so that it can reproduce. That's the way that that God created those. Is it has in its mind at the end of the day, I need to reproduce myself. I need to do this. I need to put on an ear. I need to put on grain. I need to make sure that that's pollinated so that it can be. I mean, that's the way that it is. That's why when we see droughted corn that stands about this tall and still has an ear on it, because that plant has taken everything it's done, all the energy potential that it has to just go on and put in that ear so that it can reproduce. If I stress that plant by cramming it too close to other plants,
Too dense.
if it's too close and too dense, it doesn't have the ability to photosynthesize as much sugar. It doesn't have the ability to lay out there and make a good healthy plant. A good thick stalk, or a good flex stalk with lots of good digestible material in the middle is going to have better fiber digestibility than a stalk that's as big around as my finger, okay? That's all it's done is put on structural material so that it can get up and beat the one next to it up to the sunlight. And so when we cram plants together, we dramatically reduce the fiber digestibility of those plants.
So not only does the genetics of that plant, which was designed for higher fiber digestibility, but by allowing that stalk to flex,
yes,
and getting bigger, then we don't have to lay as hard a material in it, or God didn't have to put so much hard material in that to keep it upright.
Exactly.
And so that hard material is what is the undigestible portion.
Right.
So we have more of the digestible side of that when we allow that stalk to flex out.
Exactly.
Same way with the grain and the kernel.
Same way with the ear. And there is that if I do stress that plant and I make a smaller ear, I'm obviously going to have smaller kernels, and there's going to be less of that digestible material in those kernels. Popcorn, yeah, exactly. I got smaller kernels. There's more of that hard vitreous stuff that and that it feels like it has to protect, because it feels like it has to protect that seed so that it can so that it can go on and and grow for the next year, so to speak. So it can be viable. So it lays on more of that hard prolamin vitreous material with a smaller seed.
How hard has it been for your team to convince people to back down populations when everybody in the industry is saying to increase?
So it's really kind of interesting, because it hasn't been hard to convince the guy who has been farming for 10, 15, 20 years and sees the difference. It hasn't been hard to convince him who the guy who's also the guy who's raising the corn and feeding the cow.
Yeah.
It's not hard to convince him at all. I mean, he gets it. He understands that. A lot of the times, the guys that are hard to convince are the guys who are only chasing tonnage. That's the guy that's hard to convince. Because he's only chasing tonnage, and
he's scared to death.
And he's scared to death that he's going to lose tons.
You're telling him he's not going to lose tons, but
exactly.
As a matter of fact, that's very interesting, because we've kind of run this test several times for large farms, where they have several growers out that grow for them. And what the growers are looking for is a magic number,
yeah.
That they can use, a multiplier, if you will, so that we can go out and we can have our agronomist, we can have the crop insurance guy, somebody go out and give us an estimate of what the grain yield is out there. And let's say that this particular field is 200 bushel corn. So what's my multiplier to equate that to silage yield?
Yeah.
Well, with the corn hybrids that are on the market today, they're pretty empty. They're pretty pithy. Those stalks are small and they don't weigh very much. The corn that you're talking about has got a bigger stalk. It's got a lot more density, carries a lot more of those carbohydrate sugars in the base of those bigger stalks than what the little stalks do, and they yield considerably more in terms of tonnage.
Right. Exactly.
Now, in terms of loads, loads may not be all that much different because we're hauling in, so many semi loads, but that corn is very soft, it's hard to pack. It's very spongy. But the corn that you're talking about has got a lot of dense material in the stalk, weighs heavy,
dense but digestible material.
Yes.
Okay, so we need to make sure that we make that. This is dense material, dense but digestible material.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and you're right, and it goes in, and it goes in there, and we're gonna get to storage here in a minute. Okay.
I was starting to lead into
I know you were, but you skipped harvest. But there's one more thing about management that I just want to add here, and that is I think that every farmer needs to look at a fungicide program. Okay. If we're going to maximize healthy plants, okay. I mean, 2 years ago, we had southern rust move up further north than we ever had. I think, the longer that I can keep that plant healthy. Now, I'm not saying, I'm just saying he needs to work with his crop advisor, but I think that everybody needs to be at least thinking about this. Okay? I don't sell fungicide. Master's Choice doesn't sell fungicide. We don't produce fungicide. But if I'm going to talk to a guy about managing his silage acres appropriately, I at least want him to be thinking about that.
Is this a defensive move on your part? Is your corn more susceptible to disease pressure?
I would say no. This doesn't have to do with my corn. This would be anybody's corn.
Yeah.
This is anybody's corn. If the goal here is to maximize healthy plants per acre, then I need to be figuring out, how do I make that?
Yeah.
How do I keep these and make these plants healthy? Some guys, they need to look at foliar feeding. They need to, we need to look at soil health. But I think the easiest next step is let's just look at a fungicide program. Not just for Master's Choice, for anybody who wants to make high quality silage.
Good.
Okay?
Yeah.
Fungicide is cheap. Fungicide, people understand that, I get it. And so I am not saying that, in fact, here is why I say this. If I look at our lineup, the plants that are the healthiest have the best fiber digestibility. Mm-hmm. Okay? And so why would I not try to give all of those plants the best the best ability, protection, the best advantage to be able to stay healthy.
The best potential.
Yeah, the best potential to stay healthy.
Creating that world-class silage is taking advantage of everything.
Taking advantage of everything. And like I said, it's not because, in fact, my Master's Choice lineup overall is a really healthy lineup because it has that genetic potential. And what we found is a link to those plants that are the healthiest are the ones that are the best. So let's just add a little bit to it for not a whole lot of money to make sure that we're protecting those.
I hear you loud and clear. So as we're finishing up, we're talking about a lot of us out there planting on 30-inch rows. There's more of us all the time that are planting on twins or splits, and it's all about density in the field. Would you not agree?
I would.
That a population that we recommend on the low side is referring more to a 30-inch row, and if we have a population of spread of, let's say, of 26,000 to 32,000 on a particular hybrid, that 26,000 would apply more to a 30-inch row guy, and the 32,000 would apply more to a 20-inch row guy.
Well. And that's one of those things that it would depend. That I would definitely the 20-inch row guy. Yes, you can increase your population.
You're getting the plants apart.
You're getting the plants apart, but not dramatically. There are some guys that on 30-inch rows have great soil, great management, and they can bounce that to 32, 34,000 plants per acre. There's no doubt, and still have plenty out there. I was in Idaho a few weeks ago, and we were looking at it, and they were on a pivot, high management, good soil, good organic matter, and they were at 36,000 population. And when I walked in the field, I didn't know that, and these plants looked beautiful, and I had to ask, what planting population are you? There were even some half-filled double ears on a lot of these plants, And I thought, man, well, they must have backed this population down way low. But it was just such good management that a guy could do that.
Very interesting point. So what you're saying is if you've got high organic matter, if you've got high CECs, let's say maybe a field after an alfalfa, rotation,
yes,
where we've got pretty loose soil and we can move nutrients through the ground, that we can bounce that population up a little bit. But if we're more corn on corn, or if we're tighter soil, the CEC's lower, we better back down.
Better back down so that you can maintain and increase silage quality for sure.
Got a call here just the other day from a producer who through some stress-related incidents wound up with population in the 22,000 range and couldn't make a decision whether to leave it or to try to replant. It was getting a little late, so he left the corn. And he said it was his first year to try us. And he said he had other corn hybrids out there that were planted a little differently, weren't subjected to the same pressures, and their population, their final pops in the field were much higher than ours, much more normal, up into the 30s, pushing 40. And he said, I was extremely disappointed. I really wanted to try your corn, and was making excuses, during the summer as to whether he probably needed to try Master's Choice again, but this certainly wasn't going to be a very good year. And so he harvested that corn at the 22,000, and it was the highest yielding corn that he had. Even higher than any of the competitions,
right.
35, 36, 38,000 plant pops.
Exactly.
Because of the flex.
Because of the flex there. Good.
And you would say that he would have excellent quality.
He should have some of the best quality he's ever
Super Bowl
seen.
type quality.
World class quality.
World class silage.
Absolutely.